Welcome to our presentation on how Johnsonville worked with C&R Research and Ideas to Go to rapidly fill our new product pipeline with lots of great new ideas for sausage. During this project, we spent a lot of time with consumers in their kitchens, so we thought it would only be appropriate to invite you into ours today to give you a sneak peek to show you how the sausage is really made. Pardon the pun, but we realized that presenting online isn't nearly as fun as joining everyone together in Chicago. So to keep the mood light, our friend Link will be calling out our punny behavior throughout the presentation. Say hi to everyone, Link, as we get this sausage party started. And feel free to type any questions you have in the chat box on the right, as we're all online today to answer any of your questions. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Kraft, and I lead consumer insights at Johnsonville Sausage. Johnsonville is quite a unique company in that we're really obsessed with sausage. It's all we do. Not only do we make over 70 types of sausage that are distributed through retail and food service around the world, we've set the world record for grilling the world's longest bratwurst. We have a working Civil War era cannon that is modified to shoot a sausage across a football field, and we can have larger than life racing sausages roaming the halls of our office any day of the week. Although right now, they're even in quarantine too. And we have a 3-story brat piece of art in front of our headquarters in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. Our goal is to be the best company in the world that just happens to make sausage. Kat, would you like to introduce yourself and C&R Research?
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. I'm Kat Figatner. I'm a partner at C&R Research. And C&R Research is a full-service marketing insights agency. We're very excited to be celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. At C&R, we design innovative custom research methodologies and provide high-quality analytical insights across both qualitative and quantitative research. We're also known for our expertise in various cohorts, including youth and family, Hispanic and multicultural consumers, and shoppers.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Monica Grant, an innovation process designer and facilitator at Ideas to Go. Ideas to Go is an innovation process consulting company that helps companies to generate creative and compelling solutions for challenges of all types. We specialize in helping teams to stretch their thinking beyond the obvious, facilitating co-creation with consumers, and developing and refining ideas that move your business forward. We're known for our Creative Consumers Associates, a group of highly creative and generative target consumers that clients work with directly to yield possibilities that are both relevant and distinctive. We're also known for fourness thinking, our technique for managing the negativity bias that is so persistent when new ideas are present. That's just one part of our behavioral innovation approach, which identifies and overcomes a host of cognitive biases that get in the way of innovative thinking. We have 9 facilitators across the country, a robust project support team, and creative facilities in Minneapolis and New Jersey.
Thanks, Monica. Now let's get to the meat of the problem. In the summer of 2018, Johnsonville made a strategic shift to focus only on sausage. That's when I joined the company. Prior to that, we had been focusing our innovation efforts on expanding into other meat categories. Thus, our innovation pipeline was almost bone dry. Without much of an innovation pipeline and new consumer insights and innovation groups being built from the ground up, we really began a race against the clock to get things moving against the new strategy. Having focused outside of sausage for about 5 years, we found that our proprietary foundational insights about the category were aging and needed to be refreshed. Additionally, we knew the cross-functional buy-in would be critical in order to get the pipeline flowing again once we started coming up with new ideas. The solution we came up with was a series of relay races that helped us quickly learn deep insights on one type of sausage occasion and then transition those insights into consumer-led ideation, all while starting to build qualitative research on the next occasion. All in all, we were able to gather insights and ideate on 4 different major occasions and fill that 5-year knowledge gap in less than 1 year. Talk about stuffing 10 pounds of meat into a 5-pound casing. For each occasion, we partnered with C&R to gather the insights and Ideas to Go to lead the ideation. I'll let Kat and Monica share with you what we did and the lessons learned.
Our first challenge was that we got the green light on funding for this project in October of 2018. Karen and her team brought to our attention that the holiday breakfast was a key occasion. Breakfast sausage usage rises then, so we had to act fast. So instead of progressing from everyday breakfast and then looking at what's different for the holidays, we had to jump right in on the holiday occasion first. We made the best of a worse situation. We moved quickly to complete a previous research audit and initial exploration, looking at sausage holistically to identify burning questions, we're able to get consumers recruited and completing mobile journals on breakfast sausage right after Thanksgiving, in time for the holiday season. We completed that first occasion deep dive in December, and then we were able to progress through everyday breakfast at the start of 2019, including in the middle of a snowstorm. Then we moved on to dinner, first looking at cook preparation and then ending with grilling for dinner at the middle of the summer. Observing consumers grilling in Houston in mid-July was hot. Here's a video about what we accomplished.
To gain a deeper understanding of the role sausage plays in breakfast and dinner, C&R Research conducted mobile journals and immersions with over 100 consumers over the course of a year. We traveled to 12 cities across the U.S. to interview consumers in their homes, observe them as they cooked for us, and then followed them to the grocery store to get an in-depth look at how they view, use, and shop for sausage for breakfast and dinner. And before we met, these 86 consumers, along with 54 more from across the U.S., captured their breakfast and dinners in a mobile journal.
To make the innovation program successful, it was important to link the phases together and keep a wider cross-functional team involved throughout the process. We invited the team into the field with us and had multiple teams in the field at the same time for maximum exposure. We had people attending consumer research for the first time, so we briefed them on what to expect. Homes may be messy, don't tell me you never saw such a thing. Kids and pets may be around and even crawling all over you. Consumers may be misinformed, but you have to keep your eyes and ears open. Observe their actions, look for body language, listen for what's left unsaid. You have to go with the flow and not correct them, no matter what they believe, like not knowing that most sausage is pork. The immersions were intense. 3 hours long and involved not only a store visit, but also a cooking demo. So this puts a lot of pressure on the consumers, and they were outnumbered by the research team, sometimes as many as 4 to 1. So to put them at ease and make them comfortable with opening up and sharing, everyone had a job and a purpose for being there. So whether it was to ask questions like me and the other moderators, man the video camera, take notes, we all had a job. And that store visit. So as you can imagine, we did this across multiple retailers on the sly. With this big research team, it was important for the observers to act cool. They pretended to shop and not bring attention to the sausage party in the aisle. They all deserve Oscars. After each wave of fieldwork was completed, we didn't just hand things off. Instead, we had a day-and-a-half opportunity workshop where we worked collaboratively with the full team, including Monica to connect it to the next phase, and we brought in Johnsonville as ad agency. We all worked together to unpack the insights. And to get full participation, we went off-site. This helped keep the team engaged. It's a lot harder to slip out for a meeting if you're not in the office. So as we went through the research, we broke the findings down into chunks. Paused as we went through the learnings to explore what does this mean in terms of innovation opportunities. Thinking about and capturing on worksheets, how are consumers currently behaving, what jobs they're trying to fulfill, what is that friction or pain point getting in the way, what workarounds are they employing, etc. And this was an iterative and grueling process, identifying lots of potential opportunity areas, then collapsing them into themes and prioritizing them. But having the team go through this process with us was invaluable. As a preview, one of the products that's currently in the pipeline is hitting a technological roadblock. Under normal circumstances, this might become an excuse to abandon the idea, but the team is fighting and pushing the engineers to develop a solution. That's because they went through the fieldwork and the strategy session with us, and they understand how big a need this is for consumers and what the potential can be if they solve it.
The next phase was taking those succulent and juicy opportunity spaces and turning them into a pipeline of awesome new product ideas. But first, a bit on process. We followed our version of the creative problem-solving process, which includes 4 steps. First is preparation. We are careful in selecting the right creative consumers to participate in co-creation with the client team. We're also careful to ensure a good cross-functional participation of client team members because diversity of background, role, and perspective is key to effective idea generation. Before the project, we gave the creative consumers a robust preparation assignment, anchored in those opportunity spaces that form the foundation of our ideation session. The next step is divergence. This is stretching out thinking to explore and generate lots and lots of possibilities. Great ideas start with lots of ideas, and lots of ideas require attacking the challenge from lots of different angles. Then on to convergence. Convergence is a series of strategic decisions that are made to move the best ideas forward and turn them into something useful. In this case, concept outlines. And finally, next steps. We're all familiar with the conference effect, where you go off-site and you learn something exciting, and then you get back to the ranch and the energy wanes. That just can't happen here. So we help the team lay out actionable next steps to ensure the momentum is maintained. As Karen mentioned, we went through this full process multiple times for the multiple meal occasions the Johnsonville team identified and prioritized. Each time, we started by bringing target creative consumers associates in to co-create with the Johnsonville team. Creative consumers are just that, regular consumers who happen to have top-tier creative aptitude. We train them in myriad ways to harness their innate creativity so it's helpful for co-creation. For example, how to ideate, what insights are and how to write them, and how to articulate broad wishes, which are simply their unmet needs stated in their words. The creative consumers created a robust preparation assignment in advance, which in this case was designed around the opportunity spaces we identified during the strategy session. Once in session, after introductions, they shared insights about their experiences in the occasions, their broad wishes for what could be, and perhaps most engagingly, their creative expressions, like plays, art and poems, and how sausage fits into all of that. As the Johnsonville team listened, Creative Consumers Associates' homework not only sparked brand new product ideas, but also gave further dimension to those opportunity spaces. The Johnsonville team used this rich input to refine the opportunity spaces and drove whole hog into ideation. Using a variety of techniques, from verbal to visual to physical, we led creative consumers and the Johnsonville team in a series of ideation exercises, the goal of which was to generate tons and tons of new product possibilities, taking them into many different possible directions. Again, quantity of ideas begets quality of ideas, and every idea is a potential catalyst for another one. They captured these ideas in Ideation, our online software, which enables speed and accuracy of capture, legibility, and process efficiency when it comes time to prioritize them. At the end of each session, the team left not only with hundreds of ideas, but also with that paradoxical feeling of energized exhaustion. Ideation, when done right, is taxing, but it's incredibly exciting. Next came the convergence phase, identifying and refining the ideas with the most promise. The team started by individually reading through and voting on all of the ideas, captured the previous day in Ideation, which now in this phase is converted into an online ballot. Now familiar with everything from the previous day, not just what they'd personally come up with, each person wrote big idea starter concept outlines consisting of a working name, a grounding consumer insight, many of which had been articulated the previous day, a singular product benefit, and a clear product description. The team created a few dozen of these big idea outlines, and then prioritized their top outlines, ensuring a good range of close-in and further out and various product types. For the balance of the session, we guided the team in refining the concept outlines, ensuring that the insight was grounded in real consumer experience. The benefit was compelling and clear, and the product description had the right information. Not too much, not too little. After a robust next steps discussion, highlighting not only actions, but assisters and resistors to progress, our session was complete. And we did this all in just 2 days. How's that for a relay race?
After completing 4 full laps of this race, Johnsonville has a new but very great problem on our hands. Our pipeline is overflowing. This process created almost 3,000 new sausage ideas that have already been whittled down, prioritized, and turned into 25 active stage gate projects and counting. Our concept test results are coming back consistently above benchmark, and we're now keeping R&D busier than ever. I'd encourage you to feel free to mix and match vendors. I'm sure you vendors don't want to hear that, but it's really important. When I first put this project out to bid, I asked several vendors to bid on all or part of it, identified the solution that was best for me and my internal stakeholders, and chose to collaborate with CNR and Ideas to Go. It's a decision that really worked for Johnsonville and this project. Also, including the cross-functional team throughout the process really increased buy-in and has been key to accelerating new product development. And speaking of accelerating, make sure to spin off key learnings and ideas as you find them. By spinning off learning early, we were able to get sausage strips on the shelf very quickly in 2020, and they might even go national sometime in 2021, which is allowing us more time to continue to develop several other new products to be test launched in 2021. Kat, Monica, would you like to share from the vendor perspective?
So while there are a lot of sexy new tools out there, sometimes the best approach is to go old school. So going into consumers' homes, observing their behavior, talking to them, and employing projective techniques. And with this project having multiple waves, we're able to tweak things each time we went to optimize our process.
I would just say to be open to collaboration, even with companies that kind of sort of do some of the same things that you do. It really helps the client in the long run. And I'd also say to be open to deviate from your process or the language that you normally use, etc., if the situation would benefit from it. Because every challenge is different, and it's important to meet that challenge where it is.
Finally, to address the big knockwurst in the room, we wanted to share some final thoughts on how this kind of research could be done online while we're all trying to avoid the pandemic that is happening around us.
We've been doing online qual since way before the pandemic, but moving a typical live ethnography into an online space does require additional planning and coordination, especially given the desire to capture different types of experiences and keep a cross-functional team involved. With the fieldwork itself, it can be chunked out. So instead of spending a 3-hour stretch with someone, you can make it more of a progressive interview. So for instance, getting to know them in one session, and then watching them cook in another, and going to the store with them in the third chunk. Or you could capture things more asynchronously on their own time. This results in deep insights, but it can impact the timeline. And with the logistics of observing behaviors via video, you can ask them to recruit a friend or family member to help them and man the video camera to ensure you get good footage. And with clients, you don't have a captive audience to debrief in the car between interviews or over dinner after a long day in the field. Instead, you have to be more proactive in setting up check-ins and debriefs during the fieldwork period to ensure your team is engaged and you're sharing learnings and iterating the guide as you go.
My advice is similar to Kat's, just reframed for ideation sessions. So first, it takes more planning. While running in-person projects, there's usually a fair bit that we make decisions on in session. So for example, when opportunity areas are identified and then prioritized in session, then we need to create an ideation exercise to use for it on the fly. And when we're in person, it's a lot easier to come up with stimulus on the fly too. You can also pivot a lot more easily when you're in person. If something comes up, you can easily give some folks a break and pull your key client aside for a conversation to discuss the direction. But for remote projects, all that becomes a lot harder. Therefore, it takes more planning and a line going into it. It doesn't mean you can't be opportunistic. It just means that it's harder to pull off without folks seeing how the sausage is made. Next, it simply takes more time. It's probably really clear at this point that all things being equal, online meetings take longer than their in-person equivalents because you have to wait for folks to stop talking, there are tech issues, there's relatively little body language to rely on, etc., etc. So we found that we not only need to extend our total session time, but we also need to break it up into a series of fractional days. 2 or 3 days in person is already a lot, but 2 solid days staring at a screen, sitting in your chair, that is torture. I don't believe there's a right or a wrong max limit on session time. It really depends on the phase and the task, but I would certainly not recommend using an innovation project to test people's limits for the first time.
Finally, when moving this type of project online, as a client, it's much harder to stay engaged for you and the cross-functional team. It's easy to let your everyday job take your attention and just let the project run in the background and wait for the report, especially the qualitative phases. If that happens, the entire team really loses that feeling of ownership they got from being with the consumers in person. I'd strongly recommend setting aside time each day during the fieldwork for the team to get together virtually to share what they've learned that day with each other. That accountability and peer pressure will keep everyone engaged in all phases of the project. Thanks again for your time today. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you've posted in the chat box, and here's our contact information if you'd like to follow up with any of us directly.